Have you ever felt that your man is right beside you, yet his heart seems to be somewhere else? Women have a very special kind of intuition. Even without clear evidence, they can sense emotional shifts in the man they love. Science calls it unconscious perception. When your mind picks up subtle signals, the tone of his replies, the pauses in his voice, the way his eyes avoid yours, or even something as simple as how he places his phone face down on the table. And then you start to wonder, is he changing, or am I just being too sensitive? The truth is, when a man starts to cheat, he rarely lies with words. He lies with his actions, with his distance, with the emotional coldness that even he doesn't realize he's showing. Because when a man directs his emotions elsewhere, he unconsciously withdraws his energy from his current relationship, as if he's slowly stepping out of your world little by little. 1. The shift from warmth to coldness. It doesn't happen overnight. The distance begins with small things: a text left unanswered, a distracted look at dinner, or that repeated phrase, "I'm busy," until you stop asking altogether. He used to tell you everything about work, random little things he saw, even his hidden fears that only you knew. Now those conversations have vanished. He's quieter, more closed off, and somehow everything you say seems to exhaust him. You start blaming yourself. Have I changed? Did I make him bored? But the truth is, when a man starts cheating, his emotional energy begins to withdraw from the relationship. His mind is already investing feelings elsewhere. In psychology, there's a term called emotional withdrawal, the act of pulling away emotionally from someone because your attention and excitement have been redirected to something new. He might still talk to you, still share things, but those moments have become purely social, not emotional. Emotions can't be divided evenly. When his heart is turning toward someone else, he naturally becomes impatient with you, less attentive, more irritable. Not because you did something wrong, but because every word you say reminds him that he's living a lie. And that discomfort makes him distant. When a man truly loves you, he shares touches, laughs with you. But when he grows cold, when there are fewer touches, fewer laughs, it's a sign that his emotions are shifting. He starts to detach from you to ease his guilt. 2. Sudden interest in his appearance. One morning, you notice he's standing in front of the mirror longer than usual. The shirt that's been hanging in the closet for months is now freshly ironed. He changes his hairstyle, switches colognes, and starts talking about wanting to feel more confident. It sounds harmless. Everyone wants to look better sometimes, right? But there's something in how he does it that feels off. He no longer asks your opinion on what to wear. He doesn't care whether you notice or not. He just quietly adjusts his collar and smiles at his reflection as if he's trying to impress someone else, not you. In psychology, this phase is known as mirror phase revival, when a man rediscovers his self-image, often triggered by the desire to be seen again as attractive, free, and desirable. This is especially common when he's developing feelings for someone new. When a man is drawn to another person, he unconsciously wants to become the most charming version of himself, again the man who knows how to conquer, how to make someone's heart race. To maintain that image, he invests in his looks, new clothes, cologne, gym sessions, skincare, even sudden weight loss. Ironically, he doesn't realize how fast and obvious these changes are. He thinks he's just taking better care of himself, but in reality, every change stems from a hidden desire to impress another gaze. If he used to dress casually to run errands now, even just grabbing coffee, he fixes his shirt and adds a touch of fragrance. His body is reacting to new emotions. When a man has someone else in his thoughts, his brain releases dopamine, the chemical of excitement and confidence, making him want to present himself more attractively. 3. Changes in phone and social media habits. If there's one thing that reveals the truth more than words, it's his phone. He used to leave it on the table, even asking you to check messages while he was driving. But lately you've noticed the screen is always face down. When you walk by, he quickly locks it or glances at it nervously. Sometimes he reacts faster than normal when a message comes in, like someone who's hiding something. This small change says a lot. In behavioral psychology, this is known as a defensive reflex, a subconscious reaction when a person fears exposure. The body responds automatically, hiding, turning away, changing posture, or switching topics. He may say, "I just want some privacy," or "I don't want you to misunderstand." But what you truly feel is the energy of secrecy, that quiet, invisible wall growing between you. Social media tells even more than you think. He starts engaging with new accounts, posting well-groomed photos, but no longer shares anything about you too. He avoids tagging you, rarely likes your posts, and stops commenting. And strangest of all, his online activity no longer matches your rhythm, staying up late, disappearing mid-chat, or suddenly going offline early. When a man hides something, his mind enters split mode, dividing himself into two emotional worlds. One is public, where he still acts normal with you. The other is secret, where he texts, flirts, and builds a new story of his life. 4. Disappearing time. If you've ever been in a long-term relationship, you know when someone truly cares, they make themselves present. Not just physically, but emotionally. A message, a quick call. "Hey, I'll be late," but now he seems to have more reasonable excuses than ever. Overtime, late meetings, drinks with friends, sudden business trips. At first, you believe him. Then you start to doubt. And finally, you realize the excuses sound like a script on repeat. In the psychology of deception, this is known as scripted behavior, a rehearsed pattern created to make lies easier to remember and more believable. But there's one thing they can't fake: emotional inconsistency. Someone telling the truth has a natural tone, steady eyes, calm breathing. A liar, on the other hand, often looks away, talks faster, or avoids eye contact. He doesn't realize it, but every time you ask, "Where were you?" his body betrays him, looking away, forcing a smile, or quickly changing the subject. Disappearing time is one of the clearest signs of shifting emotional priorities. When a man starts devoting time to someone else, he needs to create gray areas in his schedule to hide it. At first, it's just a few hours, then weekends, then entire trips. He still comes home, still smiles, still talks, but you can feel it. He's not really there anymore. His body is present, but his mind is elsewhere. And those missing hours in his life are where another woman begins to exist. In psychology, this is called emotional displacement, replacing one emotional connection with another. A man doesn't always cheat because he's stopped loving. He cheats because he wants to feel alive again, to feel desired, significant, and wanted. What he's truly seeking isn't another woman, but the version of himself he once was when he still knew how to feel. 5. The reverse blame attitude. When a woman starts sensing that something is wrong, her first reaction is often gentle, to ask, to test the waters, hoping for reassurance. But instead of understanding, what she gets is hostility. He frowns, sighs, and says things like, "You're being paranoid. Don't you trust me, or you're exhausting me?" That's the moment you start doubting yourself. You wonder if maybe you are overreacting, if maybe it's all in your head. But in psychology, this is a very common defense mechanism called deflection, the projection of guilt. When people do something wrong, their mind creates an emotional tension zone where guilt and fear collide. To relieve that pressure, they unconsciously redirect the negative emotion towards someone else, making you feel guilty instead of themselves. For a man who's cheating, this behavior becomes especially obvious. He knows he's doing something wrong, but he's not ready to face it. So when you get close to the truth, even with a soft question, he reacts defensively by acting like he's the one being attacked. He'll accuse you of being controlling, of mistrusting him, of ruining the relationship, and before you know it, you're the one apologizing. In arguments like this, he's not protecting love, he's protecting his image. And that's what hurts the most for many women, not realizing that once a man starts blaming you to hide the truth, the relationship is no longer built on trust, but on manipulation. 6. Changes in physical intimacy, either less or too much. Shifts in intimacy are among the clearest signs of infidelity, but also the most confusing ones, because they tend to show up in two completely opposite ways. He either becomes distant or suddenly overly affectionate. If he grows cold, you feel like you're lying next to a stranger. No more familiar touches, no unconscious closeness. When you try to get intimate, he claims he's tired, stressed, or just not in the mood. In psychology, this is known as emotional detachment. When a man's affection and energy have already been redirected elsewhere, he unconsciously withdraws physical intimacy from you. It's not because he's lost desire, it's because deep down he feels guilty. Every touch reminds him of his betrayal, and to escape that feeling, he avoids you. On the other hand, some men become excessively passionate. They initiate intimacy, more often suddenly act romantic, and express affection intensely. At first, this might make you happy. It feels like he's falling for you again. But in reality, it's often his way of soothing his guilt. This is called overcompensation, when the brain tries to balance guilt by being extra nice to convince itself, I'm still a good person. Sometimes intimacy even becomes a tool, a cover-up, because as long as he's close to you physically, you're less likely to suspect anything. The sad truth is that both extremes, coldness or excessive affection, come from the same root cause, emotional imbalance. When someone truly loves, emotional and physical closeness flow naturally together. But when a man's heart has drifted away, even affection starts to feel forced, whether he avoids it or overdoes it. 7. Your intuition is not wrong. Women are often teased for being too suspicious, but in reality, their intuition is a highly accurate subconscious awareness. Science calls this thin slicing the brain's ability to process tiny, subtle cues in behavior, tone, and eye contact to form emotional conclusions long before logic catches up. Simply put, intuition is the intelligence of the heart. It doesn't need evidence because it feels the shift in the emotional frequency between two people. You sense that he feels distant even when he's right there. You feel the silence getting heavier even when there's no argument. You realize you no longer read him the way you used to, even though you once knew his every breath. That's not imagination. That's the soul recognizing that the person you love is slowly leaving, if not physically, then emotionally. Many women choose to ignore that intuition because they're afraid of losing him. They tell themselves it's just a phase, that he'll come back. But intuition is never wrong. It quietly warns you that something is shifting and you need to stay aware. Psychologists often say women know the truth before the truth is spoken, because they don't just listen with their ears, they listen with their hearts. Intuition is a woman's inborn gift, her shield against deep emotional harm. So if you feel something's off, trust that feeling. When you start noticing the signs, the coldness, the missing hours, the fading gaze, the first thing you need isn't proof, but calmness. Because when a woman acts out of panic, emotions take control, and she risks losing the only thing she can still control, her emotional power. The first step is to take a half step back. Don't confront, don't beg, don't try to fix the relationship by doing more. Instead, observe. Because when you stay silent, the truth eventually reveals itself. People can lie with words, but never with their eyes, their heartbeat, or their changed behavior. The second step is to acknowledge the truth without blaming yourself. Men cheat for many reasons: boredom, emptiness, the need for validation. But you are not responsible for their wrong choice. Their issues may explain the behavior, but betrayal is always a decision, never an accident. The third step: refocus on yourself. Instead of asking, why did he change? Ask, what can I do to protect my worth? Strong women aren't those who never hurt. They're the ones who know when to stop, hold their dignity, and begin to heal. And finally, if the truth is that he really did betray you, remember this: a man can betray your love, but don't let him betray your identity as a proud, self-respecting woman. Sometimes the most painful part isn't that he lied. It's realizing that the man who once said, "I'll never hurt you," is the very one who taught your heart how to protect itself from now on.